Hi, and welcome to Mompreneurs Making Moves podcast. I'm your host, Amraya Murdoch, and super excited to have you here. This is for you if you are a mom looking to get into business, or you're already in business and you're thinking, how can I do all of it? Because some people say they have it all, business and motherhood. And that's what we're here to talk about. This is real talk for all things babies, business, and boundaries on Mompreneurs Making Moves. And today I am joined by an amazing guest, Cara Staley, devoted mom of three, powerhouse entrepreneur, co-owner of a 7-figure chiropractic business. And now she's also going to announce her new venture on our episode. So excited. How are you today?
I am so good. I am so excited to be here with you and talk all things mompreneurs. It's hard and it's exciting.
Yeah. And by the way, you look great for being a mompreneur. Because we know, both you and I know that being a mom and a businesswoman, we don't always look like this.
Oh, true. If I am ready for the day, my kids want to know where I'm going because I usually am not put together. So yes.
Love that. Okay. So here's the thing. When we're talking about this space of mompreneurs making moves, a lot of our viewers really actually want to know, how do you make money? And then how do you balance it all? So I want to just start with first. So before we get into all of that, tell us a little bit about you. Just, quick fun. Where are you from? What do you like to do? Again, I said you're a mom of three. You're a boy mom, right?
All boys. Yes. I am the only female in my entire house, including pets. Oh. So yeah, a lot of testosterone in my house.
Yeah. And so tell us a little bit more about you. Like, what do you like to do? What is, your favorite food? Anything?
Yeah. I am obviously mom of three. I think too, just even within this podcast space, to be completely vulnerable, I think sometimes I am in a season of like kind of rediscovering what I like to do, because we all kind of lose ourselves in being a mom, and our hobbies become what our kids' hobbies are. So a lot of that is carpooling at the moment and soccer, which I have never been a soccer player. But for me, so I grew up in the South, so I'm from Tennessee.
Awesome.
My husband and I met in northern Utah on a blind date, one of the few that have ever worked out. And from that moment on, we were hooked. And we've moved back and forth across the country several times between like school and grad school and parenting, like the parents and grandparents fighting over who gets to live the closest. And then we settled to where we're at in the desert. So, and then when I have free time though, I'm outside just clearing my head, grounding somewhere. So that's kind of my go-to at the moment in this space in life is just finding some relaxation, whether that's hiking or just outside away from the noise, right?
No, I love that. And self-care for the mompreneur. I mean, that's something we might have to bring you back for on another episode, because I don't know. I mean, it's already hard enough as a mom to get self-care, but now you add business to that and it's almost impossible, it feels like, at least for me.
It's true.
You know? So that might be something we'll have to bring you back for again.
Yeah.
But for this episode, I do want to mention for, those who are listening, if you don't know, we might be in your backyard. We're here in St. George, Utah, southern Utah. So for those of you who are like, hey, I'm not far from you, or, I was thinking about going to that area, definitely shout out, say hello. We want to see you, want to say hi. And we'll be featuring other business owners here in the St. George area as well. So super excited about that. But back to, this episode. Now that we've learned a little bit more about you and where you're from, talk to us about just currently, like, where would you say you are in business? You're doing this and you're getting ready to do that. Like, give us a quick spiel so we get an idea for that.
Yeah. So my husband and I created a business together that originally was not the plan. I kind of grew up and my whole world was law school, and that was my plan. And I had all these big aspirations that went with that. Not that what I have now are not big dreams.
Yeah.
But when it came down to it, my husband, so we didn't actually get started in business until I would say later in life for us.
Okay.
We decided in our late 20s, we already had 2 kids. We were comfortable, but we just weren't where we wanted to be long term. Like, we just didn't see the passion. We just felt like we were going in, going out, going through the movements, right? Yeah. And so we had a hard conversation and we said, you know what? I think it's time to go back to school. This is kind of what we want, end result. It's going to be hard. We're going to struggle. We're going to be broke for a couple of years. You know, like we kind of almost reversed the clock. And we went back to school. And then his dream was always to open his chiropractic business. And the plan was never for me to work with him. I've always wanted my own thing. I'm very independent in that way. I like to have my own nutshell, right? And so when one of our mentors reached out to us and they were like, you know, you're kind of already doing this. I was working in corporate finance at the time in Atlanta, and they were like, you're already kind of doing this. And so essentially when you open your business, what's going to happen is you're basically going to pay someone to do what you're already doing. So why don't you guys just try to open it together, because no one's going to be as invested in your business as you will be. They're not going to do it the same. They're not going to do it as well as you want it, not with the same passion and everything. So that's when the the light bulb went off and we're like, yeah, this is what we're going to do. Let's open it together. Opening a business with your spouse is no joke. So it's doable and we love it. It was just the same. You have to find boundaries, but we opened that. We've been open there, grew it to a 7-figure business. I've kind of gotten to the capacity now where I can step out some and I'm doing more from home. And that kind of transition happened about 2 years ago where, you know, my youngest was not quite in school yet. And I'm like, I'm missing out on this time with him. And so I want to make sure that I'm not losing that. And so I was able to work from home more. And now we've gotten to this capacity that I've delegated a lot more of my responsibilities. So I'm still the director. I'm still doing things behind the scenes, but my time I'm able to do it in a much simpler format and a lot more condensed time schedule. So that opens me up now to have the freedom to create something of my own. That's my own baby. And which is kind of going into this passion project, which is really exciting to me. Chiropractic is great and I love it and I love business and I love creating. So not that there wasn't passion there, but this is more what I'm going into is my actual passion project that has my feelings, emotions, and rawness and beauty in it. And I'm super excited for this next chapter.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited to dive into that too. And just for a second, can we rewind? So you said delegation so that you could step out, right?
Yes.
The reason why that stands out to me is because I'm CEO and owner of Infinite Exec. So we're an elite virtual assistant agency for, 7 to 10 figure CEOs. And we take things off their plates all the time. And so they're able to go do what lights them up inside, which is what you're talking about here. You're talking about getting back to what gives you joy. And so I just wanted to, quick plug for Infinite Exec,
yes.
Spelled infinitexec.com for anyone who's out there looking for some extra help virtually and you just want to contract out some specific work. Obviously, delegation, it keeps coming up. It was in our last episode. It's here again. It is one of the ways you have it all, right? Because you can't do it without help. So, yeah, definitely. I'm happy to hear that you're already transitioning in that. And there's a lot of people that get stuck in the grind, right?
Yeah.
It's like a hamster wheel. And then it's almost addicting
It
because you're
is.
just going and going and going. It's like, oh, what else am I going to do today? How else am I going to be productive? And then they're missing out. Like you talked about, you didn't want to miss out,
Right.
on your youngest. And talk to me about that because I just had a baby a few months ago.
Right.
I already feel like I'm so divided. And I'm just like, I'm supposed to be there the whole time, but I can't be there the whole time.
Right.
If we're going to make our dreams happen too, like what you're talking about with your husband and for your family, there's different things that have to go into that. And so just for a second, speak to the mom guilt, because that's a very real feeling for a lot of moms who are in business. Like, oh, I'm not a good mom because
Right.
I'm too busy. I'm working all the time. I can't give full attention. I don't have energy anymore.
Right.
Like, I mean, what are we supposed to do about that?
Right. Yeah. Mom guilt is so real. I think even if you weren't a CEO of a business, like we feel that in some capacity, right? I feel like even when we hadn't opened our business yet and then all of a sudden I had my third baby, I was like, oh no, am I giving my oldest the same attention that, I feel like we have this balancing struggle.
Yeah.
And I know even with business, balance comes up a lot. I know on your first episode, you guys talked about balance a lot. And that I think if you ask us all the same thing, we would have the same answer that balance isn't really, it's not attainable. It's a give and a pull, right?
Yeah.
So I think with that, my complete honest answer is going through it. And maybe as the years go on, it might change too. But for one, with the mom guilt is just, I think also you have to really engulf yourself in recognizing what season of life you're in. And that was hard for us at first. So like I said, we had opened our business later in life. So even in school, so my husband's going through grad school to get his doctorate, and he's going with kids that are like in their early 20s. They don't have kids. They don't have a family, right?
Yeah.
So he's balancing out this like, okay, they're all having study night until like 3 a.m, grabbing a beer, and then they're up the next day and have no responsibilities other than school.
Yeah.
And then here we are, we have 2 kids. He's got to squish it in after bedtime, and it's just different. So I truly also really feel like you've got to understand what season of life you're in. Even for you and I, we're in completely different seasons of life now, right?
Yeah.
You're in baby season, which is such a beautiful season. And so your time management is going to be very different than mine. And our growth is going to most likely be different as well. Yeah. So like when we opened our business, we opened with a newborn. Okay. So that was hard. He went everywhere with us.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we were out doing community events. We had a pack and play behind the table, and he's there, or he's strapped onto me. We're talking to people. So where there's a will, there's a way, and it's just going to be more creative than someone that didn't have kids at that moment. Right. But also, so with that, the time management was different. Whereas now my youngest is just barely gone into first grade. Wow. So now I have this whole daytime during school hours that now I have a little more free time, and I can manage my time different, and I have a bigger chunk of time to put different places. But now my evenings are all carpool, and like, so if it doesn't happen before 3, it's not going to get done. So I definitely think really recognizing that, what season of life you're in, and giving yourself grace in that too. So it might mean that, business is always sacrifice. Yeah. Like growing, launching something, creating something, there's always going to be some type of sacrifice. And you also got to have to decide what sacrifice you're willing to make. If that's your baby's new or your kids are small and you're willing to like really put in everything you've got, and your husband's going to be taking the care of the kids for 2 months because you're just really going to go at it for 2 months, then that's the sacrifice, is that little bit of time. Or the sacrifice might be your progress and your growth is a little slower because you're not willing to sacrifice that time with your kids, sure. Right? Sure. And then I would say my only other thing for that is also being very intentional. We've learned along the way with our kids, because going from that like stay-at-home mom life to balancing a business and having to kind of navigate that time management with not feeling guilty with my kids. And I'm not saying I don't feel that, some now too, right? But being really intentional with our time, as far as, we even had a time period where we had to schedule time. Like, okay, we're going to spend an hour with this child, undivided attention, phones are away, we're not talking about business, and we're doing whatever that child wants to do. Yeah. And then their takeaway, and they've actually done studies on this too, where that undivided attention for an hour made up, and those same kids that had that undivided attention for an hour were the same, and they felt the same and felt like they had spent just as much time as the parents that had been with their kid all day and didn't have that necessarily like specific quality time. So it's really interesting how that works. Yeah. And for us too, because it also, and you can see it in their faces, it's like, okay, they can see that connection. And now it's like, okay, now, mommy's got to go and I've got to work on this now, and our time is up, and we'll play some more later, but I've got some other things I've got to do now. And then they're like, okay. And their cup is full, and there you go. And then you can do whatever it is you need to do. Right. Awesome. But that helps a lot. Yeah. And so having that undivided attention is,
that's actually really hard. I don't even have an hour to myself.
Right. Yeah.
But obviously, when we're weighing values here, making sure that we have that strong relationship and connection with our kids and our family is paramount, regardless of what's going on or who's doing what. And so making the time would be, more important than just trying to say, well, I don't have the time, and keep going.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing I wanted to touch on was your new venture. Let's just go straight into it.
Yeah.
So tell me, what inspired you to start it? What is it? And what are the plans that we could be looking out for to see how we can get involved? Yeah.
So we're in the final stages of this launch, and we're so excited. And it's me, but we also have a team behind the scenes, right?
Awesome, yeah.
But So this is more of a passion project. Like I had said, this is something that is raw and real, and it was inspired by all the things that I went through. And basically it stemmed from us going through some trials and some hardships and some relationship issues through our marriage, right? And then being able to go through that and learn through that and be able to come out the other end, not only in a better place within our own relationship, but also finding my own independence within that too. And I think it applies in a lot of things, but I think sometimes we go into something and like we kind of assume a role. And I feel like in my marriage, that was something that I started doing when we first got married. Like my role was, okay, I'm a wife now. Yeah. I'm a wife, and now I'm a mom, and I'm cooking and I'm cleaning and I'm doing all these things. And then eventually it rolled into, I was going through the motions of life, right? And not that I don't love all those things, but I also didn't have a purpose other than helping other people. In a capacity of my cup wasn't necessarily getting full. Our relationship wasn't necessarily growing because we weren't having hard conversations. And so we went through this, and basically we went through this infidelity and this big trial in our life. And it's something that a lot of people don't come out the other side. Yeah. And I would say it's not something necessarily either that everyone will come out the other side. Yeah. But for us, we went through the work on both sides, right? We went through the work, we put in the struggle, put in the time, and made it through the other side. And for myself, it was a transformative journey just for myself alone. Yeah. And then also with our relationship, and it not that I would ever say I want to go through something that hard again, and not that I can prepare myself to never ever go through something hard again. But when you go through the hard things, that's when growth happens. Yeah. And for us, as a relationship, we grew. As a person, I grew. And it made me realize it's okay to not be so codependent that I don't have my own life and my own dreams and my own goals. Yeah, I don't think marriage is meant to be, this is me, this is you, we're together, and these are the roles we play. But rather, we're helping each other grow and learn to be better people and stronger as we go. Yeah. And so going through that, since then we've opened a business, we've done all these things, right? Yeah. But it's something that's really near and dear to my heart, because in those times, like, it's so lonely. It's lonely. And it's hard to talk to people, right?
It's lonely in a marriage.
It's lonely. But going through the trials too, right? Yeah, no, like you also feel, because I chose to stay, and that's lonely in itself. Yeah. Because you don't really want to talk to other people about it because you don't want them to judge, and you're already trying to go, and then you're playing this game of like defense, but you're still trying to internalize your own emotions. Yeah. So going through all that, it was just this transformative journey of finding myself on the other side. Yeah. And I think that goes both ways, of finding yourself on the other side together or finding yourself on the other side alone. But either way, the best way I can say it is, you have to be a whole person before you can help someone else. Yeah. That goes with relationships, your family, your kids. If you can't know who you are, it's hard to give back to someone else. Yeah. And so now that I'm in this capacity that I have more time and more freedom, it's almost one of those things that just has kind of fallen in my lap, that I just feel like guided and driven to do it, because I feel like it's such a vulnerable topic. And now that I'm in such a good place with it, I want to be able to guide women in that direction and just be able to find that purpose and that passion and transformative journey, that even though something bad has happened to you, it doesn't have to define who you are and define your future. Yeah. And so that's kind of where we're going with Fiercely Found. So it'll be like a system of modules, and then we'll have online groups and live workshops. And so it's going to be this whole network of women that have gone through and are going through hard things and are then finding that transformative journey and being able to uplift each other and just really find encouragement along the way. because
Wow.
I think we all kind of need that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
No, I get chills because it's hard, especially being newlywed and then new mom. Mm-hmm. You see all these things on Instagram and on Facebook, and everybody's put together. Everything's happy. They're doing multiple businesses. They have multiple kids, and you just assume they got a, get out of jail card or something for Monopoly. Like they got to bypass all the hard things, and they're just sailing. And they say it was hard, but it wasn't that hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it looks so put together.
Right.
And then you meet other people who aren't getting vulnerable. And you're just thinking, okay, so I guess I'm the only one. And when I was being sarcastic earlier, saying, what? Feeling lonely in a marriage? What?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I've only been married for a little over a year. And man, it has been one of the hardest things I've ever gone through, ever. If I really dove in and was vulnerable, I mean, I'd say a lot more. But because this isn't about me, I really want to focus on what we're, looking at here. It is hard. It's hard to be married because you can't make it. You can't control anyone else. You can't make their choices for them. And then you both get to choose indefinitely throughout the time that you're together, right?
Right.
So we all have different choices, and we don't know exactly what we're going to decide until we get there. And then we just have to make our choices as we keep going, right?
Right.
And that's scary.
It is. Yeah. Yeah.
That's a scary feeling. And then talking about going through the motions, I mean, again, just I guess being transparent here, like for me and my husband, we got married quickly. We didn't know each other for, extremely long time. And one of the hardest parts, and we have a beautiful relationship. Obviously, we're working together, we're learning, we're growing. But one of the hardest parts was just along the lines of what we're talking about, thinking about the best way to put it. It was, finding yourself going through the motions. And then you're like, wait, but where was the fun, right? We used to have fun. We used to look at each other like, lovingly. We used to text and be like, hey, I miss you, or hey, I love you. And then all of a sudden, it's like grind.
Yeah.
Life.
Right.
Day after day.
Yeah.
And you just see them and you're like, hey, yeah, cool, yep. And you're just going because there's just, and unless you intentionally take the time to connect and to build certain practices that continue to bond you, it can easily, you just easily start to kind of drift, or, things get lost in translation, and it's just compounding. Right?
Yeah, right.
So when you're talking about that definitely resonates, because I'm definitely not going to sit here and act like everything's perfect. That is for sure.
Well, that's marriage, right? That's real life.
Right. And you know what? As we were talking, I thought of this analogy, because I used to work in a restaurant as a server. It was one of my first jobs. It was extremely exhausting, right? And there were the dishwashers, and then there were the cooks, and then there was the manager, and then there was the hosts, and then there were the floor people. And there's a lot of us that have worked in restaurants, and some of us who haven't, so I'm trying to paint the picture. But essentially, you have all these groups of people working together to bring food to customers. It takes so many different moving parts. It's like, did we wash the dish that we're going to put the cooked food on? Did we get the right order? Did we get it to them in time? Is the floor manager happy? Did the host seat them in the right place? So when we bring them the food, it's going to the right table. And almost every time I worked in the restaurant, I felt like, oh my goodness, this place is falling apart. And people have no idea. But it looks like we're going. And we're moving, and we're serving food, and everything's fine. But if they really knew the chaos in the background, they'd be like, this restaurant is barely moving.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes, I think, what it may feel like when you're married and when you're doing a business. Like all of it. I don't care what it is, really. It's like, man, we're doing the thing, but if people really knew how much chaos was going on in the background and how many moving parts there were, they might judge and be like, wow, that's, this place is falling apart, right?
Yeah.
And it feels like that, and that's not comforting, but it's a part of the process, right?
Right.
Yeah. So Fiercely Found, I absolutely love that title. Who is your target audience for that? Like, are you talking about women of all ages? Are you talking about just women? Talk a little bit to that quickly.
Yeah. So target would be obviously women. I want this to be a women-focused group. I want that safety net of just women being able to relate and have that conversation with other women. Because, I mean, we're all married and even husbands and all of that, but our perspective is going to be different from a man's view.
Yeah.
Our roles are different. Most of the time, our roles are different. So I want that to be a very safeguarded woman group. And really, it's anyone that's gone through any type of betrayal. And so it's going to be that basically I'm a betrayal coach, and I'm helping women kind of guide through that journey of all the different emotions and the upward and the downwards of going through that cycle of healing and coming out the other side and feeling like a whole person and feeling like a confident person that can tackle whatever's next.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And when you're talking about betrayal, usually, people feel like the victim because they are. I'm not saying they're not completely, but I mean, they look inward and they're like, man, I'm the victim. I didn't deserve this. And then they look outward and they blame everything else around them at the same time. And it's like, well, if he just, and if they just, and if I just, right, they could even blame themselves. So to the woman who's bitter right now and she's sitting in that betrayal and she's like, I'll just figure it out. I'll just deal with it. I don't need a coach. I don't need anything. I don't need a community because they're hurting. What would you say to that woman?
Yeah. So there's only so long that's survivable, right? So there's only so long that you can sit in that bitterness and for one, it not start to bleed out in other aspects of your life. And then I think one of the biggest things that's ever kind of hit me hard was where your attention goes, energy flows, right? So if your attention is going towards all the negativity, that's where your energy is going to be. And your demeanor as a person is going to be in that energy. And for me, I already had 2 kids at the time. So it was like, I'm just trying to balance like all these emotions of going through something hard, but also like be present and happy and like, all this for my little kids. And so I was like, this is not something, and this is going through the grief cycle is hard by itself anyway, but it wasn't until I found like a really good network of people that had gone through it and like my therapist and things like that, rather than people who hadn't gone through something similar, because even in business, this goes both ways. This goes with really almost everything in your life. But when you're going through or doing something hard, I would say that you need to be very careful about the network of people you choose to have those conversations with, or get advice from, right? Because the advice is going to be very different. Someone who's gone through the process, right, is going to have a very different outlook. Same thing in business, even just to bring it back to business, right? When we opened our business, even our doctorate business, right? So when we were going through that, we even had, I'm talking even family and friends, okay, that were like, I don't think you need to open this business. Why don't you at least go work for someone else first? Like they have, even that's one of the lessons I've learned too, is even the people closest to you almost don't give the best advice because they're invested in a different way. Sure. So sometimes their advice is more coming off of a way of trying to protect you, even though it's not necessarily the best advice. Right. So even with that, with everything, just make sure your network is either someone that's gone through the trials, come out with the end result that you want. Right. Like I don't want to take advice from someone who is still in that miserable, and their marriage is horrible still. And they're still living in this like, what if stage. And that was just one of those moments that like, eventually you have to go through the cycle, but you get to a point where it's like, okay, this is not something I want to live in for the rest of my life. So I've got to make some choices and I've got to do the work on my side too. We had obviously boundaries and things in place of things that he had to do to gain my trust back. Sure. But I needed to be doing work along the way too, because now I had to go through this whole healing process. And I wasn't a whole person for a long time because I had to learn to get my confidence back up and get my, my head straight and figure out what my life goals were. And so, it was hard, but I'm glad I've gone through it. I'm a whole different person now. I can see marriage different now because I can see that it's more than just going through the motions and assuming a role. And even now we're in such a great place, but it's work like anything. Like building a business is work. Going through a marriage is work. Maintaining a relationship with your kids long term, that's work. Like if you don't put the work in now, if you want this at the end, if you want like with your kids, even if you want this relationship and you want them bringing your grandkids over and you want to have Sunday dinner, if you don't spend the time with them now when they're little, and they don't have a relationship with you that's like that, why would you expect them to do that later, right? So same thing in your relationship and business, right? Clients, if you don't put the work in now, why would you expect your business to be growing 2 years from now? Yeah, absolutely. So, and talk to the idea of I've arrived, like
this is perfect. That's good. This is great. My business is up. My marriage is perfect. My family, do you ever really arrive? Or are you a failure because you're constantly striving to get there?
Oh, this one's hard. I talked to my friend about this the other day. She's kind of in the same, and we get along so well because she's very driven and entrepreneur, and we have a lot of the same. And I would say that too. Again, have a tribe, even if it's not your best friend, have a mentorship group, have a coach, have somebody that's doing it with you. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you've heard the quote too, like you never want to be the smartest one in the room because you always want to be growing, right? The hard and tricky part with that is, and this is something we had to learn, my husband's very driven too. And so I feel like when you're a dreamer and you're a creator and you're in that entrepreneur space, it's really easy to forget to celebrate how much you've accomplished, right? So I feel like if you looked at my life 10 years ago, right, and we're broke college students, my life now is like, oh my gosh, like I did it. I did it. This is, I remember like counting change so I could meet my friend at Chick-fil-A once a month. Like, you know, so now, where I'm at, I'm like, if you asked me that last week when we were doing a planning meeting, I would be like, this is not where, like even in the chiropractic business, it's like, okay, this is off the ground running, like it's running smoothly. We've got systems in place, but we want to open more offices. We want to get my husband into a capacity that he can grow, and he wants to go and do more like speaking and things like that. So there's always something that you can grow and add on to. But I would say taking the moment to really compare your life and take those little small wins or big wins, right? But acknowledging them, because it can be exhausting. And that's where we ran ourselves into about 5 years ago. I feel like we had gotten to like everything was running smoothly, like business was great. Everything was great. But we were kind of like, this is like just dragging us down. Like, what is that? Like, what are we doing? Like, this is, I'm tired of the grind. I'm tired of everything. But then we're like, no, it's because we're always grinding to get to the next thing, but we haven't taken the time to appreciate where we're at. So I would say that's hard. If you're a creator, a dreamer, just remembering that, like taking and reminding yourself, or finding someone that can remind yourself of like, hey, like I have arrived at that goal, but like, of course we're going to make more goals. And I think that's too with setting goals. Like you have big goals, but setting those small ones so that you can appreciate it along the way. Yeah, no, I love that. And before we wrap up, and I could talk to you for hours. We're just getting started. But, I just wanted to ask, when it comes to wanting to be independent as a mom, that's something I've heard you say, independent and just being your own whole self, how important that is. I am wondering, is it bad if I want it all? If I want to be a mom and in business and be successful, because I almost feel like with the very traditional religious views, no matter what religion you're in, the role is clear, right? You're at home, you're cooking, you're cleaning, you're taking care of the children, and all of those things are an honor to do. And it is a part of our gifts as moms. Absolutely. At the same time, we also, some of us, not all of us, but some of us are really ambitious. We want to grow. We want to contribute even more in different ways. And we can't do that just from that one role alone very easily. So we have to create space for, getting into different things. And I'm just curious, but is it bad? Because the religious view would say, how dare you think outside that box? You know your role, stay in your lane and do what you need to do. And yes, again, all of that is important. So I'm not saying not to do that. However, if we take that lens and that limited perspective, it's like, okay, well, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to be home, cook, clean, kids, and stay in my lane and support my husband. That's another part. Like totally support. But what about me? Is it bad if I'm a mom and I'm thinking, well, I need a little bit more for my family, that I want to contribute. I want to do a little bit more in different ways. Talk to me about that. Is it bad for me to want to do a little bit more? I don't think so. I mean, honestly, let's be honest. If you're here, if you're listening to this podcast even, right? If you're a mompreneur, your attributes are different than some of the other people. Because there are people that are completely complacent in that.
Yeah.
And like, that's their whole life. I have a friend that like her life dream is being a mom. And she like her parties and her like, even just like snacks after school, like that is her like entire personality and she loves it.
Yeah.
But if she has doesn't want to be in business, she doesn't want to create in that type of atmosphere. So if you're here, you're entrepreneur, you're a creator, you're a dreamer, right?
Yeah.
And so the personality trait alone takes up enough space that you just have to learn how to do it to have it all. I don't think it's unattainable. I think, again, season of life, right? And also figuring out how to delegate if it's a time issue, or figuring out what it is to make it attainable, because wanting it all, again, and also making sure you're not burnt out on trying to attain this big thing and making sure that you are realizing the small wins. But having it all is perspective too. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So if having it all is having a business and having a family and taking care of everyone at the house, it might mean, I mean, for me, like, I was like, I love when my house is clean, and I love when I have dinner on the table, and I love when I can also be the boss and make sure we have the training schedules and everything there. And I want to be the face of this. So for me, again, it goes back to some of the delegation too. Like for me, even it was like, okay, there was a season where I hired someone to come clean my house, and I kind of go back and forth with that one, but I'm like, if it frees up time, because to me, success right now is time. And I think success changes depending on what season you're in too. But for me, success is freeing up time so I can use it where I want to. And if delegation is how that happens. So I've even had a season where, like, even groceries, it's just like I Instacart them, so that hour that I don't have to go to the grocery store is spent doing something else or working on the business or spending that dedicated time with my kid, then I can do that. But I don't think it's unattainable. I just think it has to be more of a thought through process than just like opening it up to the world and saying, this is what I want. How does it get there? Yeah. Right? Yeah. So same thing, just having a structure. And I think because as a mompreneur, there's so many roles to your life, you almost have to be the same thing you're doing in business, right? That's why our chiropractic business is thriving, is because we set all these processes and systems in place, and now it runs like clockwork. Yeah. But we almost have to apply those principles in life too, of like, okay, this isn't working. This is kind of where all of a sudden I have a bottleneck of time or function or whatever. What can I do? Is it something I don't like? Like, I hate folding laundry. Okay, I will pay someone to fold my laundry if that clears some time for me to then, cook dinner and put dinner on the table or whatever it is. Or, okay, now I have time to come do this podcast because I freed up some time and coordinated carpool for my son to get picked up from school. So, when there's a will, there's a way, and then also prioritizing what's important to you. Yeah. So if growing your business right now, but also maintaining mom life is the top priorities, then maybe you're hiring someone to help clean the house. If having time with your husband and kids are the priority, then maybe your progress gets scheduled out a little slower so that that's important to you right now. Right. So it's also like we've said, balancing is really not, there's never a balance, but it's just prioritizing and then figuring out what's the priority then. And that doesn't mean it can't change, right? Yeah. And just go like 6 months at a time, a year at a time. Okay, what's important in this moment that I need to get done? What can I delegate out so that I have more time to get the things that I want to do? And that's the beauty of it too. Yeah. Once you get to a certain point is like, what do you want to do? And then what can you take off your plate that you don't like to do? And what can you spend time on doing that you want to do? And then that also helps almost kind of keep that fire alive when you're in that grind too, because you're able to use that time on the creation and on the product that you're actually trying to build. Yeah, so absolutely. Yeah.
Well, look, I mean, it's been a pleasure, and like I said, I know we're gonna have you back again because we got to talk about self-care and so much more. But Fiercely Found, it's going to be an amazing just platform and community. And where can we find you?
Yes. So for now, the best place, I'm a multifaceted entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur. So the best place to find me is on my Instagram is the best place for now. And that's at Cara Staley. And I will have all the updates there, all the links to all the different platforms. So find me there.
Yeah. And I'll definitely link as well to this podcast so you guys can reach out, connect. Absolutely encourage you to do that. And I mean, Fiercely Found, I know it's going places. You're going to have a conference. It's going to be right here in St. George at Black Desert. It's going to be great. And I'm going to be like one of the first people to sign up. And then we're going to go back to this episode. I'm going to play it and say, see, I told you this was going to blow up. And so many people need this. And I mean, it's going to be awesome. I'm so excited. And I want 10% because I put all the
power of manifestation, right?
No, but really, I'm just so excited for you and for the many people that you're going to touch, and you're just getting started. So we are going to follow your journey and see just how much you get to change the world. So thank you again for being on Mompreneurs Making Moves, where we got to talk about boundaries and obviously a little bit about babies, but mostly about, what do we do when it comes to betrayal, and how do we navigate having it all as a mom, and what does that mean for us? What does that look like? This has been just wonderful. So thank you for coming on. Again, I'm your host, Mariah Murdoch, and you're listening to Mompreneurs Making Moves podcast, and we'll see you next time.